Welcome back to Cheddar Business, everyone. After Bruce Linton was fired from his role of co-CEO of Canopy Growth this summer, the co-founder venturing into not one, but 5 other cannabis companies as an active advisor and investor. A representative says Linton's involvement in the group will allow him to be a voice in the core conversation to push regulatory and scientific possibilities. And joining us now is none other than Bruce Linton, who is the co-founder of Canopy Growth. Bruce, good to have you with us.
Oh, good to be here.
Okay, explain your shirt.
My
because
shirt.
I think this is the future, right?
Well, so there's a bunch of things that go on. In my mind, if a person comes on your program and they don't have something to sell, the reason they're on TV is they have some kind of like a little bit of mental thing because they just want to be on TV. And so I never do that. When I came every other time, I always wore a brand. And in the summer, I had no brand, and they said, what are you going to do next? I said, well, maybe I should run Cheddar, which I didn't get any calls about that. But what I was trying to show when you panned out is, on the shirt, I thought it's important to understand, like, I spent all summer digging through hundreds of companies, trying to find ones that if I were to give time and money, or time, that I actually thought they could make a big gain. And so once I found them, that was the list that's sort of the upper ones on my heart.
Okay, so you got to walk us through them.
So,
The
one that actually has like this, there's actually a name under here.
Yes.
So the people that are sitting beside me think I just had an arts and craft sort of festival because I've got like a piece of paper pinned on my shirt, but that's because I had made the shirt and one of the transactions didn't get done, and it's for an MSO, which means multi-state operator.
Okay, so
so I need one of those because I want to see wide and not super deep.
Got it.
And then when we go down, Gage is operating out of Michigan, and they are amazing at producing cannabis, presenting it in great retail. They have the Cookies franchise for Michigan, super deep, super strong. I want to understand what it looks like to win in one state.
And
Why does that one have an like a little star by it?
So Gage is actually, I had to explain that there's a pool of money, about $35 million, that's merging with them. I'm coming in with the money, but we're all friendly. And then it will end up that I'm in Gage as their executive or their chairman, but they'll also have cash. And so I didn't want to mislead anybody. So the asterisk, which you picked up on and no one else did, means that.
Got it.
Better, no vowels.
Better, no vowels. It is essentially, it's in the business of putting together a number of dog product brands, revenues from them. Now what we're going to do is take that very nice revenue stream, a whole bunch of connections to the end consumer, and we're going to raise a bit more money, and we're going to do a bunch of research so that we can actually have how much should a dog have, if any, of cannabinoids, CBD particularly? What response does it generate? So we can actually use money to make science and this income stream to carry us along and all these connections.
Okay, so we're going to come back to the pets in a second.
Yes.
Is there a common thread, though, between all of these companies?
We're entrepreneur-driven, and they give me the view I want, which is I don't want to get caught off guard, meaning that if I can see what's happening in Europe for research with dogs, it might affect humans. If I can see how retail is working for medical and rec, and then when you get to the final one, it's prohibited psychedelics. So I started the cannabis company because really, it was so out of fashion that nobody could do good research. And what's it really do is we're just going to start seeing that by the end of this year. Now, why are we prohibiting things like other psychedelics that might help you with depression, PTSD, and particularly opiate weaning? And so the guys at Mind Medicine have been busy for the last few years preparing FDA trials, intellectual property filings, and I think they're going to have solutions. So the commonality is, I want to see where regulations are going, I want to see around the world, and I want to understand how to help mammals, full stop. So the 4-legged ones have a program that's different than for medical adult and medical recreational cannabis, and if I see all of them, you feed back and forth.
Got it.
So
and then we got, this one, so Slang is a house of brands. And people keep talking about brands.
Got it.
Brands have to be brought together where they have real value and origin. And they have to go across all the categories of consumption. These guys, I thought, were very undervalued. So I bought a bunch of stock.
Okay.
And DNA is a private company, which had been around at the same early stages in Holland as Sensi Seeds and Greenhouse, but they're from America. And they went to Holland to sort of not get in trouble. And they have great genetics, a great story, and it needs to become a huge licensing platform, so I want to see them do that.
Okay, let's go back to the companies that you're advising. On the left-hand side of the diagram of yours, for viewers, that's the right-hand side of the real-life diagram that we're talking about. Better, right? This is the one focused on pets.
Yeah.
How big of an opportunity is there in the pet market?
So usually the way medical works and products work is you get something after it's been tested on mice, maybe dogs, and then pigs or something, and it ends up at a human. Instead, what's happened with cannabis is we got all these people who've had medical access in a whole bunch of places, and to my knowledge, not one veterinarian has ever had a product they could prescribe to a dog, cat, pig, cow. So it's huge because it's underexplored, and I think it's massively disruptive because there's two types. There's the ones that are in your house and you love, and you want them to have an easier end of life or deal with symptoms, and then there's the ones that are in a barn. And so suppose you had pigs, and pigs would grow faster if they weren't stressed out, because stress diminishes the rate at which they gain weight. Now, what if CBD became really cheap and you could give them that and it would be still a reasonably accepted food product because it's just hemp, and all of a sudden they gained weight faster? What if you could actually disrupt dairy cattle in terms of they need protein? Hemp has a very high protein, very available seed. What if you could give that to cows in a certain dosage and get more milk? So I want to explore all of that.
I was going to say, because my first thought process is for dogs, right, on anti-anxiety medication. If there's a bad storm or something, or a loud siren and the dog gets really upset, sometimes you give them the anti-anxiety medication. But I guess your focus maybe perhaps more on basically the nutrients and growing cattle and livestock.
The problem with those events that you talked about is the siren goes by, dog loses their mind, neighbor hates you, but it's over. So where I've been more interested in dogs is if you have a dog, the dog gets old if you're lucky. And when it gets old, it doesn't move around very well, it doesn't eat very well, it doesn't sleep very well, and is anxious. So if I could offer you as that pet owner a path to keeping that dog well and healthy for an extra 6 months or a year, you know what you're gonna do? Thank you, Better and Mr. Linton, how much money? And so I think that that's gonna be a platform for great profit and great benefit to the dog. But I always say, like, my old relatives and an old dog, the difference is 2 legs.
Wow.
Because think about, you know anybody old? You know what they are? Anxious, not hungry, a little bit unable to sleep, and have aches and pains.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I want to get your thoughts on something else that we've been tracking here, particularly around vaping right now. And there is a growing criticism and a crackdown that seems like it is impending at this point in time. What would a crackdown in vaping mean for the marijuana industry, for the cannabis industry, given that there are so many consumers of the product that are also using vape pens to consume?
Well, I think a crackdown will be great for criminals. Right?
Explain that.
Well, it's like if people want something because they may or may not know the ills of it, if you make a crackdown, that just means the illicit market has a better shot at supplying because it'll be more available there than through the right channels. So I think what they should do is regulate and educate and monetize. And I keep saying that. Like in Canada, people say, well, they made recreational marijuana. No, it's way more boring than that. They do what government should do, which is regulate, educate, and monetize. And what I found in the vape world is they haven't done a lot of any of those. And so really what they need to do is make the channels have safe products and the FDA to say, well, it's really the vitamin E. And they've kind of gotten there. So then they have to do sampling to make sure that people aren't putting in those vape pens the wrong stuff. Then they have to make sure the vape pen doesn't get too hot. Because maybe at a certain point in time, it actually goes so hot. So that means you might have to have vape pens that aren't all made in Shenzhen, China, in the same place under the same crappy workmanship. And so I think we'll all be worse off if they crack down, and a lot better off if they regulate, educate, and monetize.
All right, Bruce, we got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome to be here.